Welcome to our series of lectures designed to provide an overview of the nervous system and of the neuron. Today's lecture will be focused on the major divisions and subdivisions of the nervous system. My name is Chris Gall, and I wrote today's lecture. This lecture is based on the College Board course outline for AP Psychology version 1. As always during a video lecture, you should feel free to pause or rewind the video at any time in order to review information or to take the time needed to complete your notes. According to the College Board, by the end of this lecture, you should be able to describe the nervous system, along with the major subdivisions and the functions of those various subdivisions. In other words, that you know how to break down the nervous system into its various subsystems, and that you can explain what those subsystems actually do. All right, so what I'm going to ask you to do at this time is pause the video. Okay. It's not often that I'll tell you how you should take your notes, but for this, I'm actually going to tell you that I want you to copy down that blank graphic organizer above. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill that in as we talk for a quick minute. And then for the rest of the lecture, I'm going to go through what are the various subdivisions in each. So go ahead, pause the video. Okay, welcome back. So when we break down the nervous system, there's two major subsystems that go into it. We've got the central nervous system, and then we've got the peripheral nervous system. Okay, and these are the big ones that then get broken down into everything else. And the central nervous system really only has two parts. It's got your brain and your spinal cord. Okay, and those are what, for lack of a better term, really control everything. The peripheral nervous system, on the other hand, is what communicates back and forth between the brain and the spinal cord and the rest of the nerves in your body. So we take our peripheral nervous system and we can break it down even further into the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. And we'll talk about each of those a little bit later. But that parasympathetic system can then get broken down into the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. And again, we'll talk about each of those and what they do when we hit the slide that's going to talk about the peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system is what makes us truly unique when compared to other animals. It's what allows us to process information faster and adapt to our environment quicker than other animals. In general, the central nervous system struggles with significant disruption. In other words, it can be very hard for the central nervous system to recover from harm. It's not that it can't be done, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of patience, and for now at least largely depends on the specific type of injury that has occurred. Severing the spinal cord, for example, is something that cannot be recovered from, though medicine is working on it. Losing the ability to walk or talk because you've had a stroke, on the other hand, can typically be relearned. We call that neuroplasticity, and we'll talk about it later in the unit. All right, so your central nervous system is what you can kind of think of as the captain, and it runs a lot of that conscious functioning. Okay. The peripheral nervous system has all the nerves that are not your brain or your spinal cord. Okay. Its chief function is to carry information to and from the brain, and as such, it has a major role in your everyday life. So if you think back to that diagram, we take the peripheral nervous system, we split it into some subdivisions. So the first split is into the somatic and the autonomic nervous system. And the somatic nervous system is what connects large body systems, like the skeletal muscles, to the brain. Okay, soma means body. So it controls things like voluntary movement. The autonomic nervous system operates largely on its own, and that is to say, automatically. When I was first learning this, it took me forever to remember, and I sometimes still slip, that it was autonomic and not automatic. That is to say, it controls things like your breathing and your heart rate. You control these things automatically. But if you're going to control them yourself, it takes actual effort to stop, and you have to stop and think about things like breathing, or stop and think about consciously slowing your heart rate. So you can do it, but it takes a lot more effort. The autonomic nervous system, if you think back to our diagram back there, is split into two further subdivisions, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. And the sympathetic nervous system is what reacts to your environment. It ramps you up when you get scared or startled. If you're walking through a haunted house and get scared, your sympathetic nervous system is what wakes you up. Your endocrine system keeps you up, but that's a subject for another lecture. Okay. The parasympathetic nervous system is what calms you down. It slows your breathing and your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, as well as increasing digestion and eliminative functions. So, in other words, your body processes the food it takes in better, and you go to the bathroom sooner than you might otherwise. Right? So, and by the way, when we're talking about the nervous systems, these are very quick reacting systems. So, when I say that the parasympathetic system or sympathetic system is what wakes you up, it's what wakes you up immediately, right? It's like that alarm clock going off in your brain. And then the endocrine system steps in, and that's what keeps you up for longer, right? That's you flipping on the lights and getting out of bed, and that's what actually keeps you up for longer in terms of the metaphor. Okay, so to be successful with watching today's lecture, make sure that you know what the major divisions and subdivisions of the nervous system are, right? So that you understand that graphic organizer on the first slide of information, how it's organized. Okay. And then also, you want to make sure you understand what the functions of those various divisions and subdivisions are. So, what is each one responsible for? If you don't understand any of those key points, please go back and rewatch the video, all or in part, to help clear up your understanding. Then, if you still have questions, bring them to class, and I'll see you there.